Hello, today I'm going to be unboxing and giving you a look at the ASUS TUF Gaming Z790-BTF Wi-Fi. Now the BTF stands for Back to the Future, and this is what ASUS is calling their motherboards with hidden connectors on the back. So the idea is all your connectors are going to be in the back, you're going to plug your cables in behind the case, and the front of the motherboard is going to be really clean. Now this motherboard does have another trick up its sleeve. It supports what ASUS call Advanced BTF, and this means that the motherboard has a graphics card high powered slot which can deliver up to 600 watts of power to the graphics card, so there's no additional cables needed to power your graphics card, and this is going to give you a truly cableless build and a really clean look. So let's go ahead and get the motherboard unboxed and take a closer look at it. So this is everything that comes in the box with the motherboard. So we've got our quick start guide, we've got some TUF gaming stickers, we've got our certification of reliability card, and some information about ASUS web storage. We've got all our drivers on a disc, we've got the antenna for our Wi-Fi 7 and Bluetooth 5.4, we've got two SATA data cables, one has got a right angle connector on it and one has got a straight connector. We've got a standoff and screw and some rubber pads for our M.2 SSD drives. So I think the front of the motherboard looks absolutely stunning without any of the connectors, but I want to make a start by taking a look at the back of the motherboard. So you can see we have lots of connectors along the bottom, top and left hand side of the motherboard, with the right hand side of the motherboard completely free of connectors. So although everything looks to be reversed, that's just because we're looking at it from the back of the motherboard, and if we actually looked in from the front, the connectors would be where you'd expect to find them on a standard motherboard. So taking a closer look at the motherboard, starting at the bottom, working from right to left. First of all, we've got a HD audio connector. Just above that, we've got our clear CMOS jumper, and then we've got a comms port header. Next to that, we've got a system fan header, followed by two 3-pin 5V ARGB connectors. And just above this, we've got a Thunderbolt stroke USB 4 add-in card header. We've then got two USB 2.0 headers, followed by another chassis fan header. Next to that, we've got four SATA ports, and at the bottom left-hand side of the motherboard, we've got our system panel header. This is where you're going to plug in things like your front panel connectors, power LED, speaker, and chassis intrusion headers. It is important to point out that the pins on the system panel header aren't reversed, and you'll plug them into exactly the same pins you would do on the front of a standard motherboard. Working up the left-hand side of the motherboard, we've got the power connectors for our graphics card. So there's three 8-pin PCIe cables, and just above it, a 12V 2x6 header. So you need to plug the cables from your power supply into either the 12V 2x6 header or the three 8-pin PCIe cables. And if you do, that is then going to provide your graphics card with up to 600 watts of power using the graphics card high powered slot on the front of the motherboard. You'll notice that to the right of each of these power connectors, we've got an LED indicating whether you plugged your cables in correctly and they're actually functioning. Just above our power connectors, we've got a USB 3.2 Gen 1 header, followed by a USB 3.2 Gen 2 front panel Type-C header, which supports speeds at up to 10 gigabits per second. We've then got our 24-pin power connector, and just above that we've got two RGB headers. One of these is our motherboard's third and final 3-pin 5V ARGB header, and we've also got a 4-pin 12V header. Working along the top of the motherboard from left to right, first of all we've got another system fan header, giving us a total of 4 of these on the motherboard. We've then got our AIO pump and CPU opt header. Finally, at the top right hand side of the motherboard, we've got two 8-pin EPS power cables to provide additional power to our CPU. Moving over to the front of the motherboard, we've got a CPU fan header at the top, which I think you may find useful if you want to go with an air cooler, meaning that you're not actually going to have to pass any cables through to the back of the case. And the only other thing at the top of the motherboard, just above our RAM, we've got our debug LEDs. The motherboard features a 16+1+1 power phase design, and we've got really beefy aluminium heat sinks over the VRM. In the middle of the motherboard, we've got our LGI 1700 socket, and the motherboard is compatible with Intel's 12th, 13th and 14th generation CPUs. If you've got an older CPU cooler, you'll be pleased to see that we've got mounting holes for both LGI 1200 and LGI 1700 coolers. We've got 4 RAM slots, and the motherboard supports up to a maximum of 192 gigabytes of DDR5 at up to 7200 plus megatransfers per second overclocked. We've got the TUF Gaming logo over our Z790 chipset. The motherboard has 2x16 size PCIe slots, and it's good to see the top one is reinforced. This is a Gen 5 slot and it will run in x16 mode with the PCIe lanes coming from the CPU. The bottom slot is a Gen 4 slot and it will run in x4 mode with the PCIe lanes coming from the chipset. In between these two slots we've got a x4 slot with the PCIe lanes coming from the chipset. If we take a look over to the right of our top PCIe slot, you'll notice our graphics card high-powered slot. So this is where the magic happens. This is the header that makes ASUS's advanced BTF possible, allowing you to connect your graphics card without any additional cables. To use this slot, you're going to need a graphics card with a PCIe high-powered connector on it, and this slot is then going to be able to deliver up to 600 watts of power to your graphics card without the need for any additional cables. Just above this, we've got a PCIe Q release button, which you need to press in to remove your graphics card from the slots. So if you don't have a PCIe high-powered connector GPU, you might be wondering if you can use this motherboard with a standard graphics card. The answer is yes, you can. It's still going to fit into your top PCIe slot, but you are going to have to power the graphics card with cables. Our motherboard has 4 M.2 slots. I'll go ahead and remove the heatsinks to give you a closer look at things. So all 4 of the M.2 slots are Gen 4x4 slots, with the PCIe lanes from the top slot coming from the CPU and the PCIe lanes for the bottom 3 slots coming from the chipset. And the bottom right hand slot will also support SATA drives. Mounting your M.2 drives in the slot should be pretty straightforward with ASUS's Q release clips. Taking a look at our rear I/O and working from top to bottom, first of all we've got a DisplayPort 1.4 and HDMI 2.1 ports. We've then got a USB 3.2 Gen 2x2 Type-C header supporting speeds of up to 20 gigabits per second. We've then got 4 USB 3.2 Gen 1 Type-A ports followed by 2 USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type-A ports. Next to this we've got a 2.5 gigabit Ethernet port. We've then got a USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type-C headers. We've then got the antenna ports for our Wi-Fi 7 and Bluetooth 5.4. And then at the bottom we've got our audio connectors. So whether you like it or not, motherboards with hidden connectors seem to be the new in thing for 2024. Whether it's something that comes and goes or sticks about is yet to be decided. But ASUS seems to be well ahead of everybody with not only offering motherboards with hidden connectors, but with their advanced BTF also allowing you to power your graphics card without any cables. This seems to be the full package, and I'm really looking forward to putting a build together using it. So you're not going to have to wait for long for me to do a build with this motherboard on the channel. It should be coming in the next week or so. If you do want to pick up this motherboard, it is currently on sale. I'll put a link to it in the description, and it seems to be around about £370 in the UK. So hopefully you have enjoyed this unboxing overview. If you have, please remember to give it a thumbs up. And if you're not currently subscribed to the channel, please hit the subscribe button as well. Thanks for watching.